All right, guys, we are back with the mind. Milos, what we got? What is in your mind today?
Well, we have to complete now the education, right? We talk about macronutrients, went with the proteins, carbohydrates, and now people asking about fats. Now, I never try to use big terms, and I try to simplify so average bodybuilder can understand it. And I'm not going to use big words, trying to really understand everything again from digestion standpoint. For proteins, like I said, we have proteins that polypeptides. Poly means many, going down to with an enzymatic breakdown to oligopeptides and down to mono amino acids, free-form amino acids. So it's a single molecule. Carbohydrates, we have polysaccharides. Will be broken down with again amylase, their enzymes, proper enzymes, to oligosaccharides and then monosaccharides. Now, fat is a little bit more complex. Then I'm going to try to simplify, but still, polymers are going down to monomers. So fat is the probably hardest to digest, and this is how it goes. When you have any kind of lipids, and lipids are triglycerides, cholesterol, phospholipids, right? Already in the mouth, again, you have a savory lipase. So it's going to do nothing really. Through the stomach, again, you have a gastric lipase, and again, it's not going to do nothing. Some biochemists want to, talk about it and make it, really, really complex, but nothing happens there. Again, it comes to duodenum. This is when things happen. And now we have here, again, from pancreas releasing enzymes, just like in other two cases for carbohydrates and proteins. Now this is pancreatic lipase, but that alone cannot do it, because fat goes it's hydrophobic. It doesn't mix with water, so it's like a big globule that the lipase, basically it's like little fish trying to bite like a big shark. Nothing's going to happen until bile from liver, manufacturing liver, stored in the gallbladder, bile salts and phospholipids going to come out, and it's going to emulsify that fat to the smaller particles. This is when lipase can do the trick. And it's going to be broken down, again I'm going to simplify it to fatty acids and glycerol, right? So now you would think that, like here in other two cases, which is going to be diffused into epithelial cell and then into the blood, but no. To be transported, it needs to be binded to the protein. And first I'm going to just say, because somebody's going to, you didn't mention it, yeah, those bigger particles are now broken down to micelles, smaller, but to diffuse, they were going to need some protein, and that's called chylomicrons. Again, you're too technical. No, this is basic. The chylomicrons are going to now be diffused, and interestingly now, it's going to not be free to go to the blood. It's going to have to go through the lymphatic system, and it's going to go to the cells at the plasmic reticulum. That is different organelles. They're going to now, take fatty acids and put them back together as triglycerides. So it's a kind of absurd. You break it down and put it back together, break it down, and so on. But eventually, even fat is going to come down, and through the lymphatic system now go to the blood system, and be what? Either stored as a fat, or as they would teach you, if it's not enough calories and carbohydrates, then it can be used as an energy. So now that brings us to that. This is digestion of fat, but now brings us down to the body of the fat, and we have so many people talking about ketogenic diet. And I mentioned already so many times that ketogenic diet is the best fat burning diet. Obviously you don't touch the carbs, you don't release insulin stop inhibit fat burning. So it's very easy to, in case of ketogenic diet, in deficient calorie intake, you take less than required, you're going to burn tremendous amount of body fat, and it'll be very good. And we have two different groups now. One that just tell you eat any kind of fat, bacon, pork, grains, fried skin, whatever else, all of it. Well, there is a lot of data. I don't go much in the research, but I see here and there, LDL, bad cholesterol shoots through the roof. I was saying to Matt the other day, Atkins diet, Dr. Atkins diet from cardiovascular disease, right? You can't, just go crazy, go with the fats and all this stuff. And then you have the other people that go ketogenic diet with the good fats, and that makes a little bit more sense. But ketogenic diet, you can't stay this for too long and forever. It just doesn't make sense. For me, I know there is no human being that can, follow ketogenic diet and enjoy life, throughout. So I said that everything in a human body is like a network. Number one, physiological preference. Number one always is energy. So anything you take is going to be converted into the energy, right? So glucose is primary fuel. And this is what body wants to use, that's what brain wants to use, that's what muscle wants to use it, right? But there's a lot of people that always talk about, oh no, carbs are evil, the high, carbohydrate diet is nonsense, low carb, keto. And then they said too much carbohydrates is going to be converted into the fat. And I heard this, so many times, and I touched that subject in my seminars a few times, but here it is. I'm going to tell you, back about 15 years ago, with good friend of mine, Charles Poliquin, I was going to many different classes. We went to functional endocrinology, went to clinical nutrition and all that stuff. I remember this very well. First time I was introduced to de novo lipogenesis, which means conversion of carbohydrates into the fat. And presenter, PhD, doctor, all these accolades, he said, almost impossible in a human, very inefficient. Yeah, when you look at there is a pathway, biochemistry, charts, and you can see that carbohydrates can be converted into the fat. But that happens in birds, in a different species. In human nutrition, that happens very, very limited. And then I remember some studies which I never know how they can determine. Like they put some people on a high caloric diet and then with high fats or high carbs and so on, and then how much they would gain, and they would determine the percentage that comes from carbohydrates, which was like minuscule. Again, don't ask me how they do those studies, but more importantly, about 15 years ago, I heard that carbohydrates, maybe 10% of a total amount, very hard pathways can be converted into the fat. So then what is the culprit? Like why all these people when they touch carbs are gaining so much fat? Not because of carbohydrates, because of total caloric intake and combination of carbohydrates and fat. So here's what it is. Now you see when you see this complex process of fat digestion, and you have an easy process of carbohydrate digestion, and then carbohydrates are there readily available, they're going to be used as a primary fuel. But fat is going to be more than likely stored in adipose tissue. Yeah, it can go to the skeletal muscle and it can be converted into ATP, but as I say, network. It's like if you keep energy balance, body would always use whatever nutrient exactly for what is intended to do. But when you lack one, that's when you start compensating. So there's no energy, there is no fat, it converts amino acids by gluconeogenesis into the carbs. Fat cannot be converted into the carbs. Fat can be converted into ketones, and ketones can be used, and a lot of people are all into it. But again, I'm saying, because especially my whole bodybuilding career, I was writing those journals, and you can see I was always on high carbohydrate diet. And of course, I had to just be on controlled lower fat diet, saturated and non-saturated. When you look at this, trans fats are unsaturated. The worst fats you can have. But so you don't determine on this. You determine healthy fats and non-healthy. Now, saturated fats we do need, sex hormones, for brain, for nervous system, many things. We need decent amount of saturated fats and cholesterol. It's crucial in a body, right? But how much you're gonna take? Our bodybuilders, if you take some eggs, you take some red meat and hidden fat and chicken and everything else, by the time you take 5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight like I do, it's going to be so much hidden fat, right? So the only thing that you should add would be the good fats. So good fats considering essential fatty acids, omega-3, omega-9, omega-6. Omega-9 is not essential. I say this because somebody I knew very well and studied was Udo Erasmus, the expert in fats, the author of Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. He was big on fats and omega-3, omega-6, balance between them, but he did have omega-9 in his Udo's Choice formula. However, it's not essential, so if some of these experts are going to jump in, Milos, you have no idea. So omega-3s, are very, very important, and typical American is lacking, and fortunately, as bodybuilders, knowing the value, we are taking from fish oils or flaxseed oil, and there's this EPA and DHA. I don't want to be technical, it's very hard to say it. I practiced so many times. Dihexaconaic acid. And eicosapentaenoic acid. It's EPA, DHA, anyway, I probably said it wrong. But if you take essential fats, and especially omega-3s, what are you going to do for average bodybuilder? You're going to increase our HDL. And HDL, the good cholesterol, high density lipoprotein, is so important for overall health. Now, this ketogenic diet I was saying, and high fat intake and all that stuff would bring this LDL and triglycerides. Now, if you are physically active, which bodybuilders are on keto diets, they would use so much of that triglycerides. So in the bloodstream, it might show low, but if it's low triglycerides and high HDL, I don't care how much your LDL is, you're safe. But the problem is that us bodybuilders, HDL level, it goes down dramatically by use of anabolic steroids, yes. So if you don't supplement with omega-3s, it's going to be quite critical. So you can be in high cardiovascular risk. So if you ask me again, about the fats, my diet for 15 years was super high protein, carbohydrates, of course, I was training 2 times a day, it's primary fuel, and fat, just hidden fat in my eggs, in my steak, in my other meat type of sources of protein, and then additional omega-3s. For my guys that I cannot put on so much carbohydrates and they're in contest preparation, and we have to lower the carbohydrates, but I don't want to load the too much saturated fats. Of course, you would put them on monounsaturated, on avocado, on nuts, on extra virgin, olive oil, coconut oil, anything else, avocado oil, macadamia oil, MCT oil, so there's a lot of things that you can use, but if you ask me for an average bodybuilder, there is no way you can create maximal hypertrophy being on low carbs and being on ketogenic diet.
Let me ask you this question. How long would you say someone who's dieting for a show, because I know Matt, as an example, I was talking to him last time, I saw him competing at the West Coast Classic last year, and again the USA, and you dramatically changed him in just a matter of a few weeks. And he said he had a few days where he actually had 0 carbs. So in his case,
yes,
with the training that he's doing, how can he even function on a 0 carb day? And if you were to do that with someone that you're prepping because you want to really lean them out, how many days at the most, let's say straight, would you put them on 0 carbs?
Maximum 5. Maximum 5, but look, I would like to do if you're in a caloric deficit, this is already bad enough. Now, if you're in a caloric deficit with no carbs, you're gonna feel like shit within minutes,
Yeah.
maybe within the days. But like okay, like goal beats the purpose. Now we have to get that super lean look, burn that body fat, even at the expense of a little bit of muscle mass. I mean, at that time, of course, he was competing in the middleweights, and we just needed to go 176.8.
Yeah.
Or what is it? 8. I
Yeah.
forgot but he was say okay, I can even risk a little bit of muscle, but with extremely high protein intake, right? And then of course we do other pharmacological things to be anti-catabolic. You can maintain it, but in general, I would do 5 days low, 1 high, 1 moderate, or 3 days low, and then 1 high, 2 days low, 1 high. So you would cycle the carbs, and I've seen actually you and Jay talk about cycling the carbs. The reason why cycling, right? If you flatlined and if you're like constantly the same amount of calories, your body adapts to it, your metabolism adapts to it, especially if you're in a deficit. So you're going to lower your metabolism because your body is going to adapt to your new caloric
You can crash it. Yeah.
So and then you're going to have to lower even more, and then after like a week or two, your body's going to adapt to this. And that's why all these super low calorie diets never work.
Yeah.
And that's why they have a yo-yo, and especially
Yeah.
ladies. They would like eat nothing, like 500, 600, 700 calories, and then blow up after the contest.
Yeah.
So in that case, and what I was doing, learning about this de novo lipogenesis. The guy was insisting that there's no amount of carbs, pretty much, that you can eat that is going to convert into fat, providing that you're not going above your caloric requirement. So if I would train 2 times a day, and I would have a 5,000 calories caloric expenditure, you can have easily 1,000 grams of carbs.
That's how Jay did it.
Yeah.
That's how Jay did it.
And, perfect. Yeah. I mean, he's one of the examples.
He trained twice a day and crazy.
So what I did, because as I had a lot of people that I was preparing, and I said, okay, so let me try this one, and I would put them in 5 days ketogenic diet, and then I said, okay, on this day now, you're gonna have to bring your fats all the way down. You're gonna reduce protein somewhat, so you can have a shitload of carbs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, creating great results in a very short period of time. So carbs do not convert efficiently in humans. So this carbs convert. Do a little bit more research, you're gonna find out. Carbs with fat in multiple ways. Can make caloric surplus, and then also carbs release insulin, and now triglycerides are there from fatty acids, right? And it can be stored. Insulin is not selective. It's going to store anything that is in the blood. Amino acids, yes, we want it. Glucose, yes, we want it. Fat, triglycerides, we don't want it. So there's a lot of bodybuilders, they have a intramuscular triglycerides because they're doing a little bit wrong. They're boosting insulin on a high-fat diet, which it's disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, you suggested sometimes I make a notes. I again didn't make a notes. Probably forget a bunch of things to say, but there you go. You're gonna have many of those. So I think I would simplify, everything that we completed now as far as macronutrients. What you eat, if you're a bodybuilder, high protein intake, 2 grams per kilo, it's my minimum, and then I go as high as 5. I see that George Farah now is trying to find some studies of high protein stuff.
Really?
And other stuff.
Since your video came out?
Somebody sent it today because of that intake. I was talking about protein absorption and that stupid myth that he mentioned. It doesn't, you can absorb 100%. Of course, do you need 5 grams of protein per kilo? It's excessive, by anybody's standards. It's something that I did, and now I'm going to put Dave on the spot. What did you say last time, to me and Matt?
I've always had my protein around 300, and so when I went back to the gym, my coach Eric, saw your video and he thought that was very interesting. I said, well, how about we try Milos' experience? So he did change the number and increase the protein by almost 100 grams, almost like over 400. And then, of course, reduce the carbs slightly, like you said, about 70%. and I went from what I normally is around between 215 to 220, and I never weigh myself, and I was at 228. I said 228, almost 230.
So
in like 10 days.
It works. You see, again, you said, Milos, do you have a studies, double-blind university study? No, but as I was saying before, water is wet, right? I don't need to, have a university study for that.
Yeah.
Somebody like, Roman Fritz reminded me that he's a pro bodybuilder from Germany, very, very good, incredible body, and he's going very high protein. Now saw somebody after hearing from me that I was going 500, he went 600.
Wow.
If you small guy can take 500, take 600. So of course, it's always going to be Milos, how about kidneys, how about this, how about we have an increased protein need. Do we need the 5 grams? Probably not, right? But every time in my experiments, I wanted to compete at the highest level of pro bodybuilding against Ronnie Coleman, Flex Wheeler, Jay Cutler, everybody else, Kevin Lebrone, So I need to do anything possible to increase muscle size. When I was on a lower protein, I was gaining, but not as much. And then when I pushed the envelope I was eating 450 to 550 grams of protein daily. 450 if I would want more carbs and introduce some fats just to keep this caloric equilibrium so I don't just overdo it. But my goal was always to go like between the 450 and 550 grams of protein. So whoever is listening to this, and I got about 20 different Instagram messages. Even Andy Welch just yesterday sent me, look, I increased 1 ounce of protein each meal, and I'm getting, of course. Protein is the only building material in your body. One thing I didn't say about the fats, essential fats, and it's structural also. So it's not, your body is not just a protein. 70% water, protein, and lipids are forming all the cells. So we have a structural fats as well, but in general, protein is the only thing that builds your body. And if you want to increase protein synthesis in a muscle, and this is what, again, a lot of guys on this video that you posted are criticizing me, MPS, muscle protein synthesis, cannot be enhanced, doesn't matter how much protein you take. Try it.
Maybe you need to try it.
Try it, maybe you can try it, and then tell me about it, because I had so many of those naysayers.
That's it. All you can do is try.
Yeah, absolutely. So
thank you,
that's it for this episode.
Awesome.